And just curious, as we call it to order, has all the meetings been properly posted? Okay, thank you. I will hold off 1 second because here comes our second box of donuts.
Green?
Morning.
No, good, got a donut.
That's the way you do.
Right. So I can come there. Right. Well, no, John has to sign it. But yes. I can't tell you anything. Oh, well, then we can get the resolution today.
Lunch coming on, I will. I guess, yeah.
You're good.
I can just do this.
Just call the meeting to order. Looking for a motion to approve the agenda with the correction, the change. We're going to switch item number 6 and item number 7, just to give the gentleman from Fulton a chance to get here. Yeah.
So motion to approve agenda.
Second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Public comments on any items within jurisdiction of the Solid Waste Board.
I gotta move over here, Paul.
Yep. Actually, maybe you should, that's just what I'm gonna do. Probably time. You can have my chair there, Paul, I will.
If you let me say something.
Okay. We'll do well if you just say nice things.
Well, last evening at the county board meeting, I made an amendment to the honor of Pat O'Brien. The Human Resources Department dated him from 1988. But the minutes of Winnebago County demonstrate that he in fact voted on June 15th, 1982, and in the organization meeting of 1984, he was listed as being sworn in. So his service was from 1982 to 2023, 41 years.
And very pleased that you were able to catch that, Paul, and it goes without saying that everybody that's been on this board certainly misses him and has the utmost respect for him, and I feel very humbled trying to sit in his chair, to be very honest. And so any other comments in the jurisdiction of the Solid Waste Board? Communication shared by the board? There's no communication either.
I'm not the board, you guys are the board.
Okay. I'm sorry. Approval of the minutes.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and please mark me down as abstain. Okay, so we're going on to number 7, award transfer station for replacement project and authorized budget adjustment.
Kathy's got a nice summary put together here for some work that's necessary over at the transfer station. She'll walk you through it.
Sure. basically late last summer, we, came across quite a bit of rebar that was coming out of the transfer station tipping floor next to North MSW, North Waste Compactor. We started the groundwork, I should say, to get a bid out on the street and hopefully award this project so that we can get the floor replaced and we can be back in a full operational, manner before we start taking in a lot of tonnage over the summer here, late spring or summer. So, Solid Waste 01-24 is the project number. The work entails demolition and replacement of the reinforced concrete floor, which is worn, beyond its useful life. Replacement of 2 concrete bollards in the transfer station. Demolition and replacement of a portion of the north waste and recycling loading pit ramps to correct drainage issues. We also included an optional bid item A for surface hardener, the shake-on hardener, which we have used in the past. Project must be completed in 2 construction sequences to allow for minimal interruption of transportation operations. The work, as stated in the bid document, must be performed between February 5th and 26th of 2024, with project completion in March 1st. And that is for us to avoid limiting operations during our DOT roadway. That usually can affect by within mid of March and usually lasts through the first week of May. Our bid was published on December 5th of 2023. We did have a pre-bid meeting on December 13th with 5 contractors who attended. The attendance was not required. We had issued amendment number 1 on December 14th to recap our pre-bid meeting discussion. Addendum number 2 was issued on January 2nd to clarify bollard diameter and cover question and to clarify the presence of existing sealer hardener in the floor that was to be demolished. Those were questions that a contractor had approached us with. Our bids were due January 4th. Let's see here. We received 5 bid responses, and here's the tally sheet. Can you zoom in a little bit on that, Leslie? Okay. So as you can see, we received bids from Gene Frederickson, Howard Immel, also known as Immel Construction, Lunda, Myron, and business called Piles. I was never heard of that one. So that was a surprise. Howard Immel came in with the low bid on this. They did do some rounding of numbers, so if you calculate out the per foot calculations, square foot calculations, it doesn't round exactly what the number that they gave us, but they rounded up. So just FYI, if you actually punch the numbers in, they're going to be rounded differently, but our purchasing manager clarified that we're accepting it with the rounded numbers as it is. So everything does calculate out as rounded numbers. And then, okay, so the base bid is $179,363. And then with the hardener added into that, they had bid $13,857.50 in addition to use that surface hardener. One other thing to mention is we had them break out the bollard replacement as individual items so that in case we found additional bollards along the way that needed to be replaced, we can add those on very easily without getting additional approval or wondering what that cost would be. Okay.
Kathy,
Yes.
the one thing that just jumps out at me when I first looked at this is both Immel and Lunda are very comparable in the hardener, and you said it to sprinkle on the hardener. Why in the world would the other 3 bids be close to 2 to 3 times as much as that? Are they quoting a different hardener or?
More than likely, yeah. I mean, I didn't call up every single one of those, because to look at what hardener they were using, but, yeah, more than likely, we said, we gave them an idea of what was used in the past, but if they wanted to, entertain a different hardener, they can certainly put that out there too. So,
I guess my concern is just that, is there, if there's a really better hardener out there, are we better off to pay more for the good stuff? I mean, the hardness of the concrete is kind of what brought us to this point of replacing it. That's just my concern.
well, the floors are going to wear no matter what. We got 6 years out of it, basically, 6-7 years before it really started to wear, so, we could look at other hardeners, but even with our partner counties and like Brown County's transfer station, they don't get much more than 6-7 years out of it either. So it's not unreasonable with the replacement timeframe. I'm not sure what kind of data is out there. That would be something I probably end up asking Paul to do a little more research into.
You want me to comment on it?
You can comment.
I'll comment. Sorry, I was late at Chris with Falk. Yeah, I was involved in this project, and it could be that familiarity by the contractor with how to apply the hardener may have increased some of the contractor's costs. IMO and Lunda may, because it's not just the purchase of the product, it's also the installation or use of it. So that may be the reason why there's some discrepancy between the cost per square foot. And the hardeners that when we hire a contractor, they have to submit submittals. So we have to approve the material before they use them with concrete and everything else, including even look at the hardener product and make sure that it's it meets industry standards. And so that I would suggest that would go into.
Thank you.
So we also received the qualification statements. There was nothing of concern noted. Both did review those. I looked over it. And we had no concern with IMO construction. They also have done, IMO has worked for us in the past. They did the compactor installation projects back in 2016. So we have worked with them in the past and that project. I wasn't an operations manager at that time, so I can't comment on how that project went, but I'd assume we would not be considering them if that project did not go well.
Right.
Okay. So Kathy, can you bring up the summary again, please? Or actually bring up the drawing. Video. The second to the last one. Okay, just so that you can see, here's an overhead, the drawing of the transfer station. So the project has to occur in 2 different stages, where you see number 1, number 2, those are the stages. Inside the building, 1 and 2 are the tipping floor right next to the north MSW or north waste compactor. And then the number 2 above is the west side of the building where the loading pits are for the north waste compactor and recycling compactor. So here is the visual of what the concrete project will entail. Okay, and then the summary again. Okay. So as you can see, the summary of project expenses we would expect to see with IMO construction base bid 179,363. Option A for the hardener would be additional 13,857.50. Total project as bid is 193,220.50 cents. So with this project to go forward in 2024, we would require a 2024 budget adjustment. The request would be $200,000 with funding from retained earnings or landfill revenues, depending on what our operational surplus or deficit status is. The solid waste staff will submit the following carryover funds to apply towards this project. We did budget a project in 2023 to repair the concrete ramps. We had 10,000 set aside for the recycling loading pit ramp and 10,000 set aside for the waste loading pit ramp. So that would flow into 2024 with that carryover request approved. What our staff here are recommending is awarding solid waste 0124 to Immel Construction in the amount of $193,220.50 and authorization of the recommended 2024 budget adjustment so that we can get the project rolling.
Any questions?
Just, just so I understand correctly, doing nothing will eventually put us in a catastrophic problem, right?
Doing absolutely nothing, yes, the concrete will break out eventually. We will have to stop using that portion of the floor because we have to manage the leachate and liquid on the floor. And at that point, it will start to seep into the gravel and the foundation on it.
And having rebar sticking up.
Yeah, it's not.
Doesn't work
Yeah.
well when you're scraping with it.
The older guys stumble over it pretty easy. Any other discussion? I was referring to me with the older guys. Paul,
Yeah, I'll move to approve the, construction bid of 1/19/2050 with Immel Construction.
there's a second.
Second. I thought we need to have a budget
We need a
as
budget.
part of it. Do you want that as separate motions or as one motion? Probably should be separate. I think, I think, I don't know.
Yeah.
That would probably be
Different.
safest, yeah.
Yeah, so Paul, we probably need to do the budget adjustment first.
Oh, we can take over.
Well, we've already got a motion in the second.
Okay.
So, but some,
Do you guys want to resend your motion for now?
Sure.
yes.
Okay.
All right, let me ask a question now, or, so, when did, I can't recall again, when did this pop up? That we really knew we had to do this, was it after we were done with the budget and just kind of?
It was in the summer months when this issue came up and we thought it was another, maybe we could just do a repair on it, but further evaluation by both staff determined that the entire surface was just wearing out.
And that's sort of by the time that was determined, budget had sort of already off ramped onto.
Correct.
Okay, all right, so I then will make a motion to amend the 2024 budget to increase the 2024 budget by $200,000 with funding from retained earnings or landfill revenues, depending upon operational surplus deficit status at year end.
Second.
Seconded that.
Any discussion on Mike's motion? Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Now, Paul.
No.
Yeah, I move to approve the, award the construction of W01-24 to Immel Construction in the amount of $193,220.50.
Second. Okay. Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Okay, all right, and I'm assuming everybody was able to meet your timeline or agreed to your timeline because it's critical to get it done well.
Yeah.
We don't have as much to haul.
Right, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
So I guess if we're still, we just took action, but has there been any determination on the whole issue of the county board having to take action on this? Where's the status of that? Do we need that to be a separate discussion? Guess that's. Well, first of all, could somebody introduce these two folks to me? Because I'm sorry, I'm not on the county board, I'm a.
Sure. This is Ethan Hollenberger, he's the assistant to the county executive.
And I'm Mike Elder, the facility.
Oh, Mike, okay, hi. Okay,
Sorry,
that's no problem. Okay,
unsure.
Yeah, we're waiting for corporation counsel, in reviewing other ordinances and attorney general's opinions. It's, and, Outagamie, the way other budgets will look, the executive and administrative counties, budget amendments would have to go to board, full county board. So initially, that's where we're at, but we haven't seen where corp counsel is.
okay. So in the meantime, then, we had the issue with the compactor, the issue with this. Are these a go until you make that determination? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah,
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
Because we don't have another county board meeting till the end of February.
right, and so we're not gonna change anything, as is. The ordinance says that the board and the county executive have authority over things that they have purview over in chapter 15. This falls under a public works project under chapter 3 of the county board ordinances, and so we're just trying to unravel kind of where that is.
Okay.
Alrighty,
Paul has a question.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, I think that, as the solid waste board has, acted over the past 2 decades, with its situation, as a quasi-public, entity, the county ordinance gives authority to the solid waste board through Wisconsin statute 59.3. And 59.3 gives the solid waste board the ability to contract, spend money, and there has never, ever been a circumstance in which the county or the solid waste board has had to go to the county board for authority to spend a penny. So I don't understand why we have this delay. I'm under the impression from correspondence or from information that has trickled down that our director has got authority from the finance director that money is available to go forward with the project. I wish that we could put this on a fast track and get that opinion. I had said what I had said, saying now, I shared that with corporation counsel, with the assistant to the county executive, and I think also it went to the finance director. It's got to be 10 days ago. I suppose the next step would just be to open up that communication with Corporation Council and get that determination, because the ordinance for Winnebago County is very clear. The authority for this solid waste board comes from 59.3. It doesn't trickle down. As a matter of fact, when I came on the board in 2006, the solid waste department was not even in the budget. It's there today only in the appendix. So I suppose that's enough to say, but I think that we need to expedite our communications and resolve this question, and it can be resolved with a simple communication with the corporate council. And I'm assuming that we are moving forward with this project. We just voted that until somebody forces us to put the brakes, or we need a special meeting, or it might take a month before they're ready to start to, is there a time? When do we plan on busting up concrete?
It has to start February 5th. No later than. But we'll have to have pre-construction meetings and we'll have a PSA in place, maybe by the end of the week, so.
Well, the contract, the signing of the contract is the obligation. It's not the breaking of the contract, it's the, once you make that commitment.
Yeah, that's it. Yep. So,
Okay. Yeah.
Until somebody puts the brakes on us, we're moving.
So hurry up and bring us everything you've got in the next 2 weeks, okay? I was kidding.
Again, this issue has come up, John, this has come up every year forever. There's a county board member that asks, why doesn't their stuff go to county board? Supervisor Norton was probably the last one, maybe 2 years ago. Finance director Paul Kaiser has looked at it. We looked to Attorney General's opinions. We looked to the county code, which says, subject to the rules and regulations established and amended from time to time by the county board and county executive in their respective areas of responsibility. So it's clear that there's some control that the county board has over the management board. There's other statutes, and we're waiting for Corp Council to repeal that, or to look at that. Her last opinion didn't review 1504 in the code, and it didn't review the Attorney General's opinions. So we're just asking, we're looking, we've looked at Brown and Outagamie. Their ordinance is different, to Supervisor Eisen's point. We looked to Marathon, Manitowoc, and no solid waste management board that we could find in the state in an administrator or executive county operates this way, where they don't have some board oversight.
Paul?
Yeah. As a quasi-public department, the choice for the county board is to yield the authority that is given in the statute, in the ordinance, or just dissolve the solid waste management board and treat it just as another department.
Point of order here, I think we're drifting a bit well past from the agenda, and so I think if we need a separate agenda item at the next meeting to have the board discuss its feelings on the issue, it should be a specific agenda item. I don't think that would be the worst thing either, to have us be able to flesh that out.
We may have more information by the next meeting also, so we will move on. Okay. Item number 6, the landfill gas to electric contract analysis.
Yeah, so we last, talked about this at the September 20th meeting. 23. Where we're looking at another option that has been presented to us by a company, for landfill gas to energy. Right now, we're continuing to generate electricity and we're selling the power to WPS on a month-to-month tariff. So they can change the rates as they so wish. And it's kind of looked around a little bit throughout 23 already. I mean, not huge changes, but that's what we have in place. It's unbundled. The environmental attributes are unbundled. So we have the application where we could sell those separately. So that's kind of how we've been moving along. This company, Best Bean Energy, approached us in 23 and put together a more formalized, I guess, offer proposal. And we talked about it back in September. The board wanted more information, more of an analysis from the financial side of things. And so since that time, we've kind of worked back and forth with Chris and his team to get kind of a memo that summarizes the analysis together, and then another presentation to our solid waste board, and determine how the board feels like they want to proceed. Information, I mean, just as kind of came out recently. I've got a hard copy of the memo that was finalized on Friday that I'll hand out, and this is kind of the basis for the analysis.
Yeah, no, I think I have it.
So this is kind of crunches all the information and puts words on paper. Chris has got a PowerPoint that Cassie has pulled up here. With a little more detailed information that I guess he'll walk you through. There's still going to be some questions that remain that we need to follow up on this, but I guess I wanted to get this information back in front of the board before my departure. So Chris,
I'm ready.
you're ready to walk through this?
Sure. Basically this presentation matches those memos that John just passed out, and basically is the highlight of that memo. And so basically a little background how we got to where we are here. Description of the Wisconsin Public Service month-to-month contract. Go over the Best Bean Energy proposal. We did a brief 5-year analysis, economic analysis. And we did some sensitivity on that, how, worst case scenarios. And then there were some questions brought up last time about managing risk associated with this. And then I have like a slide for the next steps to continue on. So a little background, how, basically Winnebago County and the board have been, doing landfill gas electricity for 20 years. It's been a success. You can see that background photograph, the engine generators there at Snell Road. In 2022, the long-term contract or power purchase agreement with Wisconsin Public Service came to an end. There was several rounds of kind of analysis done to determine what you should do next, determine, continue at this point with a new agreement with Wisconsin Public Service to sell electricity. That's what you have now is a month-to-month contract. It's really not, it's not the same as your old agreement, which was much more favorable for you. The other thing that's happened is you've made a determination to invest about $1.5 million in a new landfill gas treatment compressor and flare system here at Sunnyview. And that is supporting the continued generation of electricity. The reason why that's happening or needed is because the existing system is oversized, and we're going to cut your electricity by half by putting in a new system. Plus, it's being limped along, like we're afraid that some of the equipment is going to fail here this summer. And if it does, you won't be able to run the plant. The other thing that you guys have been doing is tracking the renewable fuel standard for eRINs that is currently on hold by EPA. This is basically where a RIN is a renewable identification number. And EPA recently published new standards, but it's all focused on renewable natural gas generation. The electrical piece, which is what you guys would, was not part of the package, but that is still pending. The other thing, guys, you know, we're doing is considering alternative proposals to purchase the renewable power. And that's where you've gotten this proposal from Vespine to do that in a different way than you are currently doing with Wisconsin Public Service. So that's what kind of the whole memo is about. We were asked to analyze, kind of determine, you know, what does it mean and what should we do? And that's what that memo and the presentation is about. I'm gonna go to the next slide. So brief description of the Wisconsin Public Service month-to-month contract. You know, they're not in this with you necessarily. They're just providing an outlet for your power. The 2023 blended rate is market dependent. So it goes up and down based on energy markets. Your blended rate was 6.5 cents per kilowatt hour. In 2023, your system produced about 1 megawatt of power, but landfill gas is declining. Engine capacity will drop to about 3/4 of a megawatt in 2025 because engine 3 will reach the end of its useful life. The Wisconsin Public Service contract does not include any renewable attributes associated with this gas. It's market dependent, does not guarantee a rate or revenue. Under this, continuing with this contract, the $1.5 million investment that you guys are making is borne 100% by the county and the board. So that's dollars that you will have to include in your gas energy cost center and pay back. Next slide. So an alternative that I know we've talked about and presented to you, Vespine has been here in front of this board. They have a proposal and they have a draft agreement, you know, a contract that we could begin negotiations on. But under their proposal, there's a base rate of 5.5 cents per kilowatt hour for 10 years, plus 15% of top line revenue, which their average about, you know, if you add in the 1.8 cents, it's a total of about 7.25 cents per kilowatt hour for a 10-year contract. There's no inflation factor on that, so that base rate is what it is. The proposal establishes that Winnebago County needs to provide 85% uptime for the 1 megawatt of power capacity.
What's that? Can I ask what that means?
What that mean with the 1 megawatt?
Well, no,
Or the 85%.
Give me what is the whole sentence?
The proposal establishes 85% uptime for 1 megawatt of power capacity. What that means is you have a minimum power that you need to deliver to invest.
We're sort of guaranteeing that.
You're
that,
guaranteeing an amount, otherwise you have to make them whole in some fashion. Now, this is still under negotiation. And the third line there, we've made comments to Vespine on their agreement. Basically, the landfill gas is declining and the engine capacity will drop. So they can't expect you to produce 1 megawatt power if you don't have that landfill gas available to produce it, or you don't have the engine capacity to produce it. And so we've sent back comments, or could send back comments.
Okay.
To say that, and then we'd have a sliding scale, sliding from year to year based on how much gas you have and based on how much engine
right,
capacity.
so we don't want to paint ourselves in any corner
We're
here
not
with.
going to let you have that happen. They're aware of this. I guess this was the starting point, and so I'm just pointing out what they proposed, and we're gonna push back on some of this. That's my. This contract assigns renewable attributes to Vespine, but will renegotiate if E-RINs become part of the RFS. What that means is basically, we're gonna give them your environmental renewable attributes associated with the gas or the electricity that's being generated from renewable resource. But if the E-RINs become part of the RFS, renewable fuel standard, then we want to make sure your contract says timeout, we're going to renegotiate that aspect because the details isn't known at this point in time. The key, I think, to all of this is that Vespine will invest $1.5 million. So you guys won't be sitting there under the Wisconsin Public Service contract. You have outlay of a $1.5 million investment. Under the Vespine proposal, they are the ones paying for that. Now, the exact specifics of ownership and reimbursement of that, I mean, that has to be worked out, but basically, they will pay for your new equipment to make this work.
Sorry, could go back to what would we be doing under the public
You have to
service?
pay 100% of that yourselves.
And what would that, of what again? What would
You're
be?
putting in a new, we're putting in a new landfill gas compressor and treatment system and like a
So
chiller.
we wouldn't have to do that then, is what you're saying?
No, I'm
Or,
saying
I mean,
you're-
they would pay for it instead of us paying.
Exactly.
So under both
Under both, you're doing that?
proposals, that project has to be done.
Yes.
It's just, okay.
We're already doing it.
Okay.
We've already made a decision to
Yep,
purchase the
yep,
equipment.
yep, okay.
So what I'm telling you is that Vespine will pay for it, or you can just continue on month to month with Wisconsin Public Service and then you're on your own.
Got it.
So, I mean, it's pretty obvious that this is a good deal. I mean, if they're gonna deliver you that much right at the beginning, I feel like it's pretty obvious. So next slide. So what does that mean? We did a 5-year analysis. And this is a continuation of some of the analysis we've done before. This isn't new. All the assumptions are pretty much the same. But basically at the rate that you have, for 2023, that 6.4 cents, and we assume like a 2.4% annual inflation of that rate. That's just kind of some average energy inflation over the past 10 years. And you end up with, you're losing about $140,000 a year, and after 5 years, going to be $1 million in the hole. And that's because of that. I mean, if you didn't have that $1.5 million investment, obviously you'd be positive, but you have that. So that's what's causing you to do that. Under the Vespine Energy proposal, they're giving you a base rate of 5.5 cents plus that 1.8 cents is the 15% of top line revenue. And this is no annual inflation. And you can see, because of the investment they're making in the equipment, your average annual profit is going to be $130,000, and your cumulative 5 years over $500,000. So this confirms the obvious. Them investing that money helps you. You want to move on to the next slide?
Just so I hang on, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Just, while I'd rather
Yeah,
walk.
that's fine.
So I'm understanding the numbers, the annual profit and loss assumes the 1.5 million, 5-year amortization, is that?
I
what you're
just
doing there?
assumed that it would happen in 2024. Assuming no finance, no cost, just basically it's you pay $1.5 million. So I'm not even financing that.
No, but I mean, if you're coming up with an average annual profit and loss.
Yes,
That includes $1.5 million
Yes.
upfront by the,
yes.
that's
and
not,
that-
that's a one-time cost, you're either spreading that out over a certain.
Right, so what I'm saying, that average is 1 year is more, 2024 will be more than other years.
Right, but the average is, and so the
That per
difference between those two numbers is 273,000 plus 274,
Yes.
which is essentially 300,000 a year for 5 years. Give or
Exactly.
take, okay.
And we could work out when you get that reimbursement. I think they're willing to just cut you a check. So it's not like they're gonna spread that out over payments. Anyway, moving on to the next.
Can I-
Yeah, you, go ahead.
Does this include labor costs?
For who?
Well, when you
For
run,
us?
yeah,
Yes.
when you run a generator,
yeah.
somebody's gotta
Yeah, that's in the
Yeah.
memo. It's like
Somebody's gotta fix it.
fix it,
we have an
somebody's gotta.
annual cost with 3 engines of how much? Is it 700,000 in there? Can't remember off the top of my head. If you look at the typical cost engine maintenance accounted for in this evaluation is $630,000 per year for 3 engines and $455,000 per year for 2 engines. That's in here. So all of your costs are in here. To run your operation of your landfill gas to energy plant. And that happens either way. So that's being, or you still have to run your plant. So the costs are included in both.
Okay.
We did some economic sensitivity and I'm trying to make the Wisconsin Public Service extra, good for you and make the best being, like the worst case for you. So trying to say, okay, if we have the worst case scenario for best being and the best case scenario, Wisconsin Public Service, I included an annual inflation of about 7.5% for energy costs. So that increased that rate of 6.4 cents per kilowatt hour by that much each year over the 5 years. You're still $100,000 negative per year with $500,000 in the hole by end of 5 years. With the best being, let's assume that you just get that base rate, no annual inflation, and we even took away the 15% of top line revenue. And you see it's about a break even deal. So under the best case scenario with Wisconsin Public Service, you're still in the hole. And under the worst case scenario for Best Bean Energy, you break even. We go on to the next slide. So the other thing that came up during our previous presentation of this was some risk, potential risk. So who's going to own the equipment and how do you get reimbursed for that $1.5 million? Vespine will not own any of the landfill gas to energy equipment, generation equipment. Winnebago County will keep ownership of the compressor and treatment system, all the engine, all of that. And the reimbursement, like I said, the 1.5 million, that they would cut us check, I think, with signing of the contract. Or at least a really short-term payback. They would drop a container like that you see in the background on your property. They might have some, where the power comes out of the engines, there may be something or equipment put in to divert it to their microgrid here. But the grid connection to Wisconsin Public Service and utility will be maintained. We're not going to change that. So that's going to still be there, including your recloser that you put in a few years ago and spent some money on. That is yours. It'll be there. And as far as will you be classified as a utility? And Richard, who's an attorney also reviewing this, believes no, because you're not making it available to the public for sale. You're simply generating some power and, it's being used by Vespine on site. So you're not a utility. And then we talked about how does this impact future agreements with Wisconsin Public Service? The scenario being, say Vespine this is a venture capitalist entity. So they have a lot of money, but if their business model isn't successful, they could go bye-bye. So what happens to you in that case? And the answer is, you would be able to keep, I mean, they probably pull their stuff, like that box, and you keep all of your equipment. And you would have to go back to Wisconsin Public Service and renegotiate a new, probably month-to-month contract. They do not have any obligation to provide you with favorable terms, but they do have an obligation to negotiate with you for the purchase of electricity. So that means they can give you a crappy rate, but they do have to buy your power. And I guess so that could happen if Vespine fails and you guys still want to continue and say, okay. The nice thing is that they've already invested that $1.5 million. You get that equipment, it's yours. They fail, you can continue to use it under a different contract. So let's move on to the next slide. So the memo and what is clear to me and what I'm recommending is that you continue to negotiate. I mean, you make the statement that you intend to sign a contract with Vespine and you begin earnest negotiations, but you should have a strategy to achieve your goals. And I would request that you include an annual inflation factor tied to the energy market so that that base rate goes up from year to year based on whatever the power or energy market would suggest. The reason I say that is because if they don't have your power, they have to buy power from the market to do the same thing, and they will. So if the power from the market rises, then you should have a corresponding rise in what you get reimbursed. The other thing is I don't know why it's 15% that they included for royalties, so I suggest let's request a higher percentage of the royalty payments, and I think royalties might be spelled wrong. But so I was saying, like, if you go to 20%, that seems like I don't know why it would be 20%, but if they said 15, let's come back at 20. And I would negotiate and adjust the power commitment that accounts for reductions in landfill gas and engine generator capacity. So basically, yes.
From what I recall about this company, they're from California, right? But they got some Iowa presence or something, is that what it was? Or they had someone here, they seem to be focusing in on some Midwest.
Their whole strategy is they're in the Midwest. They are this is Marathon County. You're Marathon County, Wisconsin.
Okay, right.
So right now that you can see the landfill in the background, Vespine has a deal with, it's not directly with Marathon County, it's with Verity, another energy developer who's going to put in a landfill gas to renewable natural gas plant here, but it's going to take years to build. So in the meantime, they're using the gas and the power to run the Vespine gas center.
Okay, right. So, and if I recall, this was kind of cutting edge stuff. They were fairly new. They didn't have that many.
Yes.
So on the royalty payment issue, do we have any other examples? What are they paying Marathon County? Because this is, 15, 30, 10. Who are we just throwing darts at this or what?
I'm not sure exactly how they came up with the percentages. I would say that would be more of a question for Richard, not me. I'm not an energy market expert. But I guess that's why I don't know what the strategy is. I'm requesting or suggesting a few things, but I think you guys should come up with a strategy. And maybe it's like, okay, well, why is it 15%? Why isn't it 50%? Or whatever, right?
And what have they negotiated with other,
What did they
can we get the
negotiate?
information from Marathon County? I wonder if
I don't have that. No.
no, but I'm saying, it's gotta be public record, I think.
We can ask Brett.
Yeah. I'm not sure, because their arrangement isn't directly with Marathon County, it's with this gas developer.
But Marathon County must have an arrangement with the gas developer, then,
Yeah,
right?
they do.
Okay, somewhere along the line,
You want to see what they?
I just think if it's public record, I would like to see something, because we're kind of flying
Yeah.
blind here without
Yeah,
anything
talk.
that, any standard.
Marathon County is also our client. So I will be talking to David and see if we can get a copy or at least some information on it.
Appreciate it, thank you.
And
So Mike and Ethan, do you understand what this company is doing with their little shipping container? It's essentially Bitcoin mining. They'll use the energy generated, the renewable energy generated from our site to run Bitcoin mining operation. That's essentially what the box is.
right,
Paul, did you have a question?
Yes, I have, would like to interject, one idea which I had, expressed previously, and a second idea, which has just surfaced within the last week. And the issue for the last week is that, we have been notified that our solid waste management director is retiring. And that would leave no permanent head for this solid waste management department. Yes, we'll have a very capable overseer for the time being, or if there's a restructuring, it may be a consolidation, but nonetheless, I suggest this new project, a new project like this, ought to be under a full-time, 100% knowledgeable leadership for this solid waste department. And the second issue that I bring up in respect to SP is that their use of the energy is to mine Bitcoin. And in my opinion, I have been under the impression that Marathon operation was in mothballs before Vespine did whatever they did with them to resurrect their gas operations, which is a world different than Winnebago County. So that as a prudent overseer of the operations, I perceive mining Bitcoin as speculative, even if it's going to ETFs.
can I say something to that effect? Regardless of what the status of Bitcoin is, they're paying, they're gonna agree to pay you for taking that power. And so I guess if they fail because of their speculation, that doesn't take away from their obligation to pay you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, my time on this board is limited. because I have, also retired from my responsibilities and, don't intend to, request becoming a citizen member. But at the same time, as outspoken as I have been for the last 9 election seasons, you know, my observation here, or at least maybe I'm just an old timer, and I'm not one of the millennial thinkers for speculating in Bitcoin mining. So
I wanna make sure everyone understands what Bitcoin mining is, because Bitcoin mining is not the same as investing in Bitcoin. The reason Bitcoin works because, and the reason there's Bitcoin mining is because all of these computers are verifying the books, the ledger of Bitcoin. So all the transactions. And in order to do that, they get paid to do that. So the Bitcoin mining is basically verifying financial, accounting, transactions, and then getting paid to do that. That's all it is. And now the value of Bitcoin, yeah, that can fluctuate, but it's over $20,000 a Bitcoin, and it's varied, but it has been pretty stable. At least it hasn't like failed entirely. There are some cryptocurrencies that failed.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I just want to make
Well,
that
and to
clear.
clarify that also, from what I understand from last time is, nothing's going on with Bitcoin on site. All it is power generation that they're
Running computers
on, there's no, I mean, it's a kind of a indirect connection
Yes.
between Bitcoin, because they could be using the power for anything.
Exactly.
Right.
They ultimately would like to use it for data centers. So basically, they can get paid more for that computing power if they're using it to store or do activity.
Cloud or something.
Right, computer cloud. They need that to be very stable. So they want to make sure that the power is stable enough that they're not going to have stuff.
Yeah,
The reason
and I think it is, yeah, and I think it is, but I think what Paul's bringing up, and I think that's why from the board's perspective, I think we have to make sure that whatever the narrative is here, that Bitcoin is not, because that's the first thing,
Yeah.
oh, that's kind of weird and stable or unstable, and I've heard it's up and down, and what does that mean? We got to get out of that narrative that this is really directly connected to Bitcoin, because it's not.
This is just, they're running computers.
Right.
And those computers, can do anything that computers can do.
Yeah.
And I guess that was just one of the first, the reason why the Bitcoin one is allows computers to turn on and shut off, depending on how much power you're generating, without any impact to them or anybody else. Whereas in the data center, power going down and turning your computers off may impact third parties. So. Do I have any other slides? I don't remember.
Just any questions?
Okay.
Yeah, I have one. Would it be possible to get another option onto this chart? And that option would be, we stop generating power and flare the gas. Now, I like the idea of generating power, but our landfill gas production is declining.
Yep.
And it's gonna come a point where at some point, it's gonna cost us more to generate the electricity than it would be to just flare the gas. Somewhere down the road, that point is gonna be reached. And, you know, I'd like to be able to take a look at that,
I think.
partially because of, you know, going into a contract over 10 years. Well, you know, it might be in 5 years, we might be at a point where it's costing us more to generate the power than it would be to just flare the gas. And I think I'd like to see some kind of an analysis as to when that's gonna be, you know, because, you know, if you flare the gas, well, nobody's gonna have that $1.5 million upfront cost.
The problem is, I'm sorry, but you guys have already invested the $1.5 million.
The board has already made the decision.
You guys already made a
with
decision
Power generation.
to continue power generation. So I think running the flare is probably about $100,000 a year or something. Yeah, I think that's.
There's a cost to running the flare.
Yeah,
But I
recognize
guess my point is, there's Perennial Energy is building these equipment skids as we speak, or they're going to be shortly. So, that, at some point down the road, yeah, we're gonna flaring, but you've already kind of made the decision that you're gonna continue gas and energy. So, I guess what we're trying to do is make sure that if you're gonna do that, it's gonna be a success economically. And right, yes, Paul? Sorry. I thought you were asking.
Go ahead, Paul.
What about the attributes? That's also a money generator,
Yes.
as well as, let's say, the base, payments from, Wisconsin Public Service
Yes.
of, 6.4 cents per kilowatt for, plus attributes. What have we done? Where are we in exploring the ability to get those attributes? I think the attributes was one of the principal factors that enabled us to make that original contract with WPS, because we were such an attractive alternative for them that they had so much going, and what was it? Did we get 12 cents from them, or was it more than 12 cents in the original contract?
I guess it started off, with the base rate of somewhere around 7 cents a kilowatt hour. And then the attributes were 1.5 cents on top of that. So it was started out at about 8.5 cents. And by the time the 15-year contract ended, we were somewhere around 10.5 at that time, because we did have a 2% escalator in there annually.
So that was a wonderful contract while it lasted.
Right.
But now we're at the point where we need to make a decision. And just as Howard says, what's another alternative? I would suggest, why don't we explore what choice we have for attributes and how much that would generate, because even if the Wisconsin Public Service contract reduces, if we have a good attribute contract, it would at least permit us to break even.
The current Wisconsin Public Service contract does not have any value or assigned to payments for environmental actions. So it's not included, and they don't want to have anything.
But aren't there independent companies that
Yes.
are scouting out
Yes.
for
Yes.
attributes?
Markets are pretty,
Yes. Markets,
poor.
I'm suggesting that this would be an additional, area to, have the information to make a choice.
the
Yeah.
recs right now are, you could sell them separately, the value is not that much. In fact, I think, what did we figure it out this past
I
year?
think Richard was saying that when he did a little research recently,
Yeah,
it's like $2 a rec,
Yeah.
which is
and
2/10 of a cent.
if you look at in the
So-
memo, there is a brief bullet point under Wisconsin Public Service month to month that describes the recs and how they're not included and that kind of what their value may be. It's not really significant.
Yeah, and just ballpark figures in 2023. We have rights to the recs that we generated. So we generated 10,000 recs in 2023 that we could still sell. But the value at $2 a rec
It's 20,000.
$20,000. So, those markets were definitely higher prior to the RFS. I guess EPA rules. But they are very depressed right now. So it's something that we started looking into. Richard Heineman from Boardman Law is made some contacts, and I guess we would have to register our recs separately. And there are some costs to doing that, but we just kind of put it on pause for the time being.
Chris, could we go back to table 1 and table 2?
Sure. Table 2, that would be one.
Okay, table 1, and help me understand. First of all, I love to utilize the gas anytime you can recycle or reuse anything. It's wonderful. We've had a great time with it. I think at one point it was like 3 million we were bringing in. The number I see that you used is 630,000 is what it costs us to maintain the generators and
Keep everything going.
expenses.
Yep.
And I don't want to be devil's advocate here, but why would we spend 630,000 a year to lose $1 million at the end of 5 years? And even with Baspine, I guess the plus is they're investing the 1.5 million, but boy, I tend to agree with Howard. We are getting so darn close, and of course, you say that it costs 100,000 just to run the flare, and I hate the flare because I could heat my whole dang house with what we waste on that flare. But I'm struggling with when do we say enough is enough, and it isn't worth the gamble. If WPS, we're going to lose $1 million, and with Baspine, we the income in a perfect situation is not huge.
I guess the way I look at it is this. You should negotiate with Baspine. You should say yes until you have to say no.
And
You know what I mean? There's no, until you sign.
Yep. Who is we that's going to be negotiating with?
Well, when I say we, I mean you guys and the whole team here, we're all in this. So I will help Richard, right, John?
Right.
The board. So what I guess I think we should get from the board today is you don't have to say, yes, we're gonna sign a contract necessarily. What you should say is,
get us a little bit better deal.
Or, yeah, you're free to negotiate in good faith with Vespine, will continue Wisconsin Public Service, it doesn't really change the month to month. But if you look at these numbers, I mean, if you can get handed over a check for the $1.5 million that you basically are reinvesting in your system here, it's gonna give you, that's the best deal that we can get. And so I guess the only thing I'll caution you is Vespine Energy is making moves, okay? They are looking for a, what's the word? They're looking for like,
Stranded energy.
well, they're looking for stranded energy. That's kind of their whole market is these small things are stranded energy. We can do it on site without getting involved with the grid. But I guess they are looking for a, the main focus of project that they can just show everybody, this is what we're doing, And right now, they really like your guys' project. Well, if you wait for too long, they may find another project there.
Yep.
And then your deal may not be as good. So I just want to point that out. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, from what I had read about Vespine and their, objective or mission, is they are hunting nationwide for distressed energy producers. And we are one of those distressed energy producers. Marathon County is a highly distressed producer. They weren't producing anything. And so that's how we came to be a prospect for Vespine. And, if we sit back and we, understand, that our gas supply is waning, that our cost to maintain our, engines and production, is, increasing as the, engines, depreciate, in value and also, in wear and tear. Yeah, we're kind of in between a rock and a hard place. And the scenario that we've hit rock bottom, that is accepting the fact that we'll just flare whatever gas comes out. You can avoid the $1.5 million of replacing an engine, but you still have to maintain other engines so that you can, produce the gas to flare.
And just kind of going back, and Howard, I like your point, but I also heard what Chris said. So if it's costing us $100,000 a year just to flare,
Is that the right number?
I don't know if
Well,
that's, I'm pretty sure.
Right now, the depreciation line item in that cost center for landfill gas is roughly $450,000.
Some costs that we're depreciating,
Yeah.
that we've
Yes.
already invested in.
Right. And that's where this new equipment would land. And we generated $721,000 in revenue in 2023 from the sale of energy to WPS. So
that $1.5 million over a 5-year period, that's another 300,000. Because we've already agreed we're gonna spend that money.
Yeah.
Whether we pay it or Vespine or Santa Claus, whoever, somebody's gonna pay that money. So it's a bigger number than 654,000, the difference between you know, if we want just the flare,
Yeah,
we're not losing 1 million with WPS, we're losing several million. Potentially.
Right.
right, because if you shut down the production,
Right.
you have no revenue. You
Right.
still have the capital expenses.
Yeah.
That are on the books.
So I get from that standpoint, I think this is the appropriate way to conclude this for us, right? We were doing this, no landfill, and it kind of, now it's curving down, but to go like that, I just don't think that that's the right way to end this, conclude this. This also allows us, if the EPA ever gets off the rear end and creates the E-RIN, that leaves us open for that, which is an additional revenue source that could appear. So I like this. I think this is a measured, appropriate way to plan to off-ramp this energy production in the most effective way we can, given the fact that we haven't signed anything. So I will make a motion to I guess continue negotiations with Vespine. Is that what you're looking for, that we will?
Well, I guess, John, what, I guess, we want to tell them that, yeah, that we want to do this, but we want to make sure that these are some negotiation points. So what I think that we'd say is, start, active negotiations with Vespine to come to an agreement on a power purchase contract.
So move.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded to continue actively pursuing contract with Vespine. Is there any further discussion on that, Paul?
Well, I'm conflicted here. What's disturbing me is that there is no full-time understanding leader once John retires. All due respect to Mike, I think that leading this project forward requires being completely immersed in what's been going on, what's going on, and what's unfolding. And the consequence is, I don't think that with this change in circumstances, that the board is in a position to pursue this particular avenue. We do have the 6.4 cents. We know the cost of doing business. We're a business. Cost of doing business is to have equipment. That's going to cost $1.5 million to keep our equipment. So you spend it. We have it in the bank. No problem. So I'm leery about pursuing this pain issue because of the change in leadership at this particular time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I hear what Supervisor Eisen is saying as far as the future transition director. I do see a great asset with Chris. I think he would be the continuum with transition. He has established a lot of help to our board and to, you know, to solid waste management. So I do see that as a tremendous asset. So I hear what Supervisor Eisen is saying, but I do see that would be a good continuum, as well as the current staff as well, so.
And I would tend to agree with you myself. We are pursuing the best contract possible. We haven't signed nothing. We need to be going forward. And overly simplified, but when one of the players goes down on the Packers, it's the next guy up. So for the time being, Chris, you might be the next guy up, and then we'll see who the next guy is. We gotta move forward.
You know, obviously, John and I have had a great working relationship all these years and, you know, relied on each other, so I'm gonna miss John. But I will say that, I will be available, Mike, and whoever is next. I'm committed to the success of Winnebago County Solid Waste, whoever is in charge. And so, I will definitely be available more than maybe even before as needed, so.
And I just want to say one thing, we also have Richard Heineman from Boardman Law that's been involved with all the contracts that we've negotiated in the past, and he's still around and willing to assist, you know, in any way that he can.
And I would like to think that you're not going with an unlisted phone number when you ride off into the retirement sunset. So, out of desperation, don't be surprised if we try to get your opinion.
Understood.
Well, right, and I think if there's a contract to be signed, it's gonna be coming back to this board, so it's not like.
You're just trying to move it forward.
I just wanted to get this back on the table in front of you guys before I went out the door. So.
Any other discussion on that motion? We've got a motion and a second to work on towards the best contract possible, and all in favor of that motion? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 8.
I don't really have too much as far as operations go. The North Waste Compactor rebuild is taking place this week. And they're hopeful to have it up and operational by Friday. So we can begin using that compactor again. Gas to Energy has been on a little bit of a pause for the first 2 weeks of the month. Clint was on vacation, so Blair was running. He's now back, so we're back to generating electricity currently. Playing the game with the flows, running one engine overnight and running 2 engines during the day when we can.
And I'm assuming the cold weather doesn't make a whole lot of.
What happens when it gets really cold is things start freezing up, so, you do have more issues. Typically the gas quality and flows are less in real extreme cold, so. But again, like I mentioned, the final numbers from WPS were, 54,625 for the month of December, which brings us to $721,032 in revenues for the year, so.
And how much is that over from our estimate?
It's over by 321,000. The budget was 400. When we set that budget number, we didn't know exactly what the tariff rate was going to be, so we just conservatively went low. But for 24, we have 600,000 budgeted for that revenue. So.
Anything else to come up for the board? Stuff, any future agenda items? The next meeting.
The obvious one, obviously, is what the process is to replace John. So, is that, to me, I got obviously priority one.
I'm gonna refer that to.
Yeah, by statute, it's appointed by the county executive and approved by the county board. The job has been posted. I think, the plan would be, Doug would sit in on, the interviews, and consult the county executive, and then, when he makes his decision before it goes to the board, introduce the candidate here so that you can meet them, and then, but the solid waste management board has no role in appointing a director, outside of, you know, what we do with every other director, that the chairman, is frequently invited to the interview. Okay. So the position is posted, and, we do have a couple people that are interested.
So just a question for you, Ethan, who is Doug?
Doug Nelson?
Oh, okay, this Doug, okay. So would he,
The good Doug.
would he be invited to every interview? Is he gonna be invited to every interview then? Is that just?
You know, each of these, this is, I don't know, the fourth or fifth director that, John's hired, and, each chair's done it different, and we've done interview processes differently. I would say he would be in the final rounds. So when we did finance director, we did a first round with HR, and then a recommendation was made on finalists. And then that's when Chairman was brought in. So it depends on how many applicants we have, really.
And last night at the board meeting, I think I was accused of being a micromanager. But one of the reasons I got elected is because I'm very attentive to detail, and details matter. And I guess my sentiment to you is just that when you have a director, obviously, you know, it's a big deal, huge deal. And this board has been one of the highlights of my term, because I'm not going to run again, and highlight. And I just think that if this board could be included in any way in that, who do we choose, you know, it would be great, you know, just to have that extra counsel. I don't know if there's any possibility that you would.
Yeah,
besides.
The chairman will be invited to the interviews.
Okay.
And the way we fill every director, have filled every director, is the process that I think the county executive is planning to follow. I think the difference here was typically the candidate does not appear before the committee prior to board confirmation. I think in this case, that candidate probably would do that. So yeah, it'll be filled the same way Jane Vandehey filled directors when Mike got hired, the same way Mark Harris filled the position when John got hired, and the same way the directors have been hired under. I mean, we're going to follow that process.
As long as the chairman can, you know, he has the pulse of us elected and citizens and all that, and I just would feel better about that aspect. I mean, I think
chairman of this board, or
chairman, chairman to be as much involved as he could be, you know, so that he could give you feedback, etc. Because this is a special thing going on here. This is my favorite board.
Yep.
He's a great director. I'm gonna cry later, but not now.
Yep.
Seriously, it's a big deal, and you know that.
Yeah, I think that John will bring Doug in, and they'll have conversations.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Ethan.
Yeah, getting back to your future agenda items, 6 and 7 definitely should probably be on that list. Question is though, there was some question about the replacement floor. And is it going to have to go to the board, the county board on that? I'm looking at a meeting date of the 7th and the 21st in February. On that, we might want to move on the 7th, if we have to. Make any adjustments to what's going to be reviewed by the board on the 21st, or on the, whatever day it is,
27th.
Let's talk about that a little bit. My understanding is we just approved this. You're gonna sign a contract with the people doing the concrete. So my understanding is, at the moment, that's a valid, enforceable, and we probably don't, I wouldn't want to see that delayed for that purpose, simply because it could take months and months to settle this issue. My understanding is this is status quo until something changes, and status quo means business continues. We have to keep operating. We can't be delaying things that need to be done for bureaucratic purposes if there's really no need. Am I missing something here, or is that accurate?
Is that accurate?
Yeah, no, the competitive bid process was completed and we followed the public works law, and the budget exists in their budget to do so. And so, yeah, they'll sign the contract under current process there.
And there you go. And not that it makes any difference and I feel guilty, but Jerry looks so toasty warm down there in Florida that I'm gonna jump in the car the first of the month and go down there for 10 days. So I won't be here for the 7th if we choose to have the meeting there. And I know that I don't think I missed a meeting for 10 years, and I'm gonna miss my 3rd one in 2 months. And I feel it's not because I'm trying to duck my new position at all. I want to get my tan out and brag about that when I get back. So, but with that, do we know about the 7th? Do we have a lot of stuff coming up, or we'll get either the first one or the 3rd one in February? Is that?
Yeah, it would be either the 7th or the 21st.
Okay.
So I guess to be determined potentially for the 7th, depending on what needs to be presented.
The only thing that I saw is, there was an email from finance about budget carryovers. And they're due on the 9th of February, so we needed to have a meeting on the 7th to approve those carryovers like we typically do.
Why do we need?
If we have enough, as long as we have
A quorum.
a quorum, I guess. Is everyone else planning to be here? Because you can't vote if you're remote.
Right.
That's right.
We don't need that. We could, if you do the 21st, they go to TNF the first week of March, the 21st would give enough time.
Okay.
Their carryovers are approved by the county executive anyways, so
Okay.
the board actually doesn't need to. The carryovers are presented by county code to county executive to the TNF committee. So the 21st would be enough time.
Just a future item, it doesn't need to be next time or whatever. I've known Mike for quite a few years, I'm familiar with him, but it might be nice to have an introduction at a future meeting, just to, so the rest of the board members, unless everybody knows them, maybe it's.
I think most everybody does,
Well,
except
I
for
have-
Mike did
so-
not.
so let's obviously made that clear tonight. So no, I could meet with them just separately or whatever. I'm not concerned about it. It's up to, I guess it's up to me.
I should know, John, when is your last day?
February 2nd.
February 2nd, so this might be the last. I would just like to thank you so much for your 20 years of moving this solid waste forward and your leadership and so forth, and we're certainly gonna miss you. So we have donuts when we have meetings. You can pop in anytime, and donut, a cup of coffee with us?
What he'll do is he'll come online with some weird like name.
Thank you. With that, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So.
Second. A motion made and seconded to adjourn, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
There you go.
Worship everyone.